Russia suffers day total losses of 1,100 soldiers, 24 tanks, 36 armored fighting vehicles, and 2 aircraft. Kyiv, in a single day, the Russian military suffered losses of 2 planes, 36 armored combat vehicles, AFVs, 1,100 troops, and 24 tanks, according to an update from the Ukrainian military on Tuesday. The Ukrainian military's general staff included estimates of Russian casualties in their daily war report. The most recent Russian military casualty count puts the number of Russian troops killed or wounded at 370,270. 1,110 of these casualties occurred in the last 24 hours alone. Getty Images /Kostya Liberov /LIBKOS also mentioned in the bulletin were the following Russian casualties: 331 aircraft, 11,358 armored fighting vehicles, AFVs, 8,801 artillery systems, 6,113 tanks, and 8,801 artillery systems. Since Newsweek was unable to confirm Kyiv's claims on its own, it has reached out to the Russian Defense Ministry via email for comment. The exact number of casualties is uncertain, but estimates put the Ukrainian toll higher than that of its Western allies. Moscow is tight-lipped on the amount of casualties it has suffered during the conflict. The Russian Defense Minister, Sergei Shoigu, announced 5,937 casualties since the conflict started in September 2022. The loss of an additional 162 personnel has been confirmed by the military ministry 3 times since the initial report. According to the BBC's Russian service, Russia has lost 41,731 service members in the conflict in Ukraine since February 2022. According to a joint study by the BBC's Russian service and independent Russian news outlet Mediazona, which was published on January 12. The report concluded that the investigation had understated the true amount of casualties. IT claimed that a large part of Moscow's casualties in the continuing conflict in Ukraine are being caused by Russian President Vladimir Putin's convicted army. Currently, 37% of all Russian casualties are volunteers, prisoners, or recruits from private military groups. 12% of these casualties were enlisted in response to Putin's partial mobilization order from September 2022. According to the Russian service of the BBC, 7,717 Russian colonial prisoners of war who died in Ukraine have been identified. According to the research, some of those casualties' remains were discovered on battlefields after a period of many months. Similarly, Kyiv does not disclose its own military casualties. In April 2023, a leaked assessment from the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency stated that between 15,500 and 17,500 people had died and 124,500 to 131,000 had been injured in the conflict in Ukraine. More than 383,000 Ukrainian soldiers have died since the conflict started, according to Shoigu's December statement. The numbers could not be independently confirmed by Newsweek. According to Tuesday's intelligence report from the British Defense Ministry, neither Russian nor Ukrainian forces have achieved noteworthy progress in the past week. However, the report did mention that Moscow's goal of capturing the city of Avdiivka in eastern Ukraine is still their major focus. Russian territorial gains have been extremely limited and costly in terms of both men and material, according to the ministry's research. Would you like to suggest a global news story that Newsweek should cover? Concerned about the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, a video purportedly showing the destruction of a Russian missile system by a U.S.-supplied HIMARS, high-mobility artillery rocket system, was published by Ukrainian forces. The United States has provided Ukraine's army with some of the most effective weaponry, including HIMARS, and Kyiv has frequently released footage that it claims depicts strikes against Russian targets with this weapon. A drone crew from the 73rd Maritime Center observed an OSA system, which is used against Ukrainian troops, during a reconnaissance operation on the southern axis of the front, according to a social media post from Ukraine's Special Operations Forces on Tuesday. A short-range tactical surface-to-air missile system, the 9K-33 OSA is aptly named after the Russian term for wasp and is capable of great mobility. A translation of the article found that, despite poor visibility, SOF operators adjusted the fire of the HIMARS missile and artillery unit of the Defense Forces of Ukraine on the enemy target, The original statement read, "IT shared a brief excerpt from drone footage that showed a target concealed in a field's trees, shot in black and white." Despite the site's difficulty in visibility, the film abruptly transitions to an explosion accompanied by smoke. Ukrainian forces have not provided details regarding the specific location or timing of the explosion along the southern axis or the unverified video. Newsweek has reached out to the Russian Defense Ministry over this matter. The 18th Airborne Corps of the United States Army, stationed at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, began using HIMARS in 2005 after it had been developed by Lockheed Martin. Suspended on a 5-ton truck, it unleashes a barrage of guided missiles, enabling the Ukrainian military to advance on hostile territory and strike Russian objectives concealed behind enemy lines. .20 systems were first provided to Ukraine by the United States. They were put into action in Ukraine beginning in June 2022. According to reports, Russia has not yet been able to destroy the 39 HIMARS that Ukraine possesses. According to Ukraine, HIMARS destroyed 3 Russian howitzers, 4 rocket launchers, and an air defense vehicle earlier this month in a series of strikes. The commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian military, General Valery Zaluzhnyi, allegedly broadcast a strike last week on his Telegram channel, claiming to have destroyed enemy equipment and manpower along the entire front line. Just this month, Kyiv announced that the system had successfully neutralized a radar and Russian Buk M2 anti-aircraft missile systems. A Russian Berev A-50 spy plane and an Ilyushin Il-22 airborne command center were destroyed by the Ukrainian Air Force, according to Zaluzhnyi's confirmation on Monday. This came after news outlets in Ukraine reported that an A-50 jet had been shot down over the Azov Sea, defining the event as a perfectly planned and executed operation in the Pryazovia region. Zaluzhnyi refrained from exchanging any other specifics.